Hey, just a heads up that the following content may be disturbing or triggering for some listeners and is not appropriate for children. Please take care of yourself and others who may be listening with you. Welcome to the Bonus Babies Podcast, a show that has no easy answers, only hard questions.
Without putting like stereotypes on it, like my foster sister and I were talking and she was telling me like people don't like Black women because we're going to say what we feel and we're going to say like how we feel. I don't know how to explain it. Like I totally agree with her on that. And I feel like I'm also a Sagittarius. So like we're very truthful. Like my friend was telling me this story about when this other girl who shares, and her name's Alexis too, she shares the same birthday as me. She had a lie one time and it looked like she was gonna throw up. And I feel her on that because we're not like liars. And so I don't know, like knowing my worth and knowing that like I have a right to be comfortable in whatever situation I'm in, and I'm going to be comfortable no matter what people feel or how they feel or what they think, or that's not my business. My business is me. That's my number one priority. And if I'm worried about what someone else who goes home at the end of the day to their children and is thinking about me, then that's not beneficial to me, because at the end of the day, they're not thinking about me. They're thinking about them and their life. And I have to think about me and my life too.
Can you tell me what you call the kids who you've cared for over the years?
We feel that the children that we receive coming into our home are bonuses. So we call them bonus babies.
I love that. This is your host, Jayne Amelia Larson, and I'm a CASA, a court-appointed special advocate volunteer for youth in foster care. Yeah, I know it's a mouthful. In the same way a CASA works, I explore all things in the foster care maze by talking to kids, parents, caregivers, attorneys, social workers, therapists, really anybody and everybody who will speak to me to keep the conversation open and the information flowing about all things CASA. My guest today is Alexis Obinna, and she calls herself a strong, proud Black woman, and that's exactly what she is. When she was a young girl, she and her younger brother and sister were removed from her mother's care, or I should say lack of it. And nobody wanted to adopt a sibling set of 3, so she made the decision, the very difficult decision, and one that a little girl shouldn't have to make. She decided to enter foster care on her own, alone, so that her younger brother and sister could be together adopted, to stay together, so that they'd have each other and maybe make their lives a little better because of that. So she was all on her own from then on. Hi, I'm here with Alexis Obinna. Hi, Alexis.
Hey,
Hi.
how are you?
Good. I really love your sweatshirt.
Thanks.
Can I tell people what it says?
Yeah,
Assholes live forever. Yeah, it's weird. They do, right?
they do.
They're ever present. They keep on going. They stay in your heart and your mind way longer than you want them to.
Right.
Yeah, and sometimes the good people fade away, but hopefully not too much. So can you tell me a little bit about who you are, where you're from, how you're raised?
So I'm Alexis. I'm a bachelor in social work student at Cal State LA.
Right, you're working on your bachelor's now, right?
Yeah, I have one more semester, so this semester is my last semester.
Okay, good for you.
Thanks. And then I'm from LA, so I don't know. I was born in Northridge, so like I'm kind of like a valley person. And then I lived in like LA and all over.
I hear it a little bit in your voice.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
Yeah. So I like, staying in the valley in LA, but it's like so expensive out here because everyone wants to come out here and be like famous or whatever.
Yeah, they do. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So like, but they don't realize that they push like all of us who live here out of our hometown. So it's like really sad, but just a little bit of mindfulness for today. And then I was kind of raised in foster care, like more than I was raised at home.
Right. So when you say kind of, how old were you when you went into foster care?
So I was like 8.
8 years old? Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any siblings? Do you have family that they were also in care with you, or were you separated from your family?
Well, at first I had a brother, and then we were together, and then we went home for like 2 weeks, and then my sister was born, and then we all went into foster care, and then my brother and I were together for a little bit, and then my sister was in another home, and then they were trying to find like adoption places for all three of us, but it wasn't working because I was already like 15 or something, well, like already a teenager. And then, so then I had to make the decision. Like, I was talking to the social workers and they were like, well, what do you want to do? So I made the decision to like make sure that my brother and sister were adopted. And I just went through foster care. So then they got
Wow.
adopted. Yeah.
Wait a minute. So you made that decision, or that
Yeah.
you contributed to that decision, saying, no, I want them to be able to be together and it's okay if I'm placed separately?
Yep. So in California, the legal age to make decisions for yourself as a minor is 12. And so except for with sexual and reproductive health rights, because there are some sexual and reproductive health rights that you can make for yourself before age 12. But other than that, to make like court decisions and real, I guess you want to call them real decisions of your life, it has to be age 12. But again, just having that like support and talking to your lawyers, because you can be like, I know myself and I know that this is not going to be good for me, because there's no way that youth can be self-sufficient if you don't give them the tools to speak for themselves and be self-sufficient on their own.
Oh my goodness. Wow, what a big decision to make for a kid.
Well, yeah, but you have to do it and you have to weigh like the pros and cons and everything. So then, I mean, I think that like my brother and sister went to a good home. My other sister's in a closed adoption. So I only seen her once when she was like 1. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird because in the beginning, like the adoptive parents were really nice and like were trying to make a like an effort to come and like see me, and they brought me like gifts and stuff, which was really nice.
Yeah, you mean to try to make sure you had a connection with your brother and sister. They would reach out to you periodically to bring you in.
Well, yeah, kind of. Like we would see each other like at least once a month or something, maybe more or something, and then um after, because my brother knows who I am, because I think we were separated when he was like 4 or 5 and I raised him. So like I was all he knew. And then oh, after the adoption was finalized, then they like stopped answering my calls, and then we didn't have as many visits. And then like I'm really sad about that because I did a documentary for PBS where I talked about that too, because it's like not fair, because they don't see like, even though maybe my brother has like issues or something, or maybe something's triggering him when I come around, I don't know, like I guess he acts out, they say, or something. And so like even though he acts out, they need to like show him more love than like negative reinforcement, because then like there's more problems that come with that. And then like if they're not answering my phone or not like letting them talk to me or letting them talk to my grandpa, then they even feel more alone and like nobody really understands them. And how can they open up to someone that like shuts out like parts of their life that are like important? So I just feel like the adoptive parents should have really thought about like how it really affects my brother and sister before they just like made all these executive decisions without them. And that's like kind of what we're fighting for now. And our advocacy groups and everything is like making sure that foster youth have that voice, whether it be in like reproductive and sexual health rights, or if it's just in general like Bill of Rights that foster youth have, or like your right to an allowance, like just anything, because it's not okay to like make decisions that affect people's mental health and their like lives when they should be making their own decisions.
Right. I know you're really active in advocacy, so we're going to talk about that in a minute. Let me just ask you, do you know why you were removed from your biological home?
Yeah, so my mom is white, and so there's like a lot of racism in my family, and there's like a lot of rich people problems. I'll put it like that. That's something that's unique about my story is that when you hear foster kids or foster care, you think that people are like these poor people living in like these horrible conditions, or it's this way or that way. And like, it's really not like in foster care, Hispanics and African American and blacks are disproportionate, but what they don't tell you is even though I may look black, my mom is white. And you have to factor all those things in because it wasn't a black lady who abused me, it was a white woman. And so, there was like so many rich people problems. My grandpa was an executive chef. My grandma did things she wasn't supposed to. It affected my mom, and then my mom became like addicted to prescription pills. So then like it was like that whole story. We all know how that goes. And then like she became abusive. So yeah.
Right. Can you tell me what are your first memories of being in foster care? You were 8, so you perhaps you have early memories, or maybe you blocked it out.
Well, it's just crazy because like there's like a lot going on in my home, and so basically my neighbors kind of knew, and they were like, "Hey, like we don't want to be in your business, but like here's this number for like the department." And then they told me like who the Department of Children and Family Services are and what they do, but they tried to explain it to me like nicely. And so they were like, "Whenever you feel like you're really in danger, um
So your
call
neighbors
them."
gave you
So then,
information. So yeah, so your neighbors
yeah,
gave you information as an 8-year-old about what to do if you felt you were in danger and who to
hmm
call. My,
yeah, because the last time I was with my mom, she told me to make her a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and I made it for her, and I left the like it was like a little, I think it was like a kind of sharp knife, but I left it on the plate, and I think she was like really high, so she told me like, "Oh, I didn't tell you to make me this," and then she like held the knife at my throat. So then I went to my neighbor's house, and I told them, I think it's time to call the people. And then we did that. And so ever since then, yeah, I've been in foster care basically.
right. And so did you go from home to home? Did you find a home that was right for you? Did you go into group homes? How did that work for you?
Well, I never been in a group home, but I think it was interesting. Like when they first picked me up, like the police came and then like they took me to a police station. So like, I don't know. I always felt like I was really advanced, and I went to like private schools and stuff. So I don't know, like even then I was like not 100% sure what was going on because like they just kind of put me in a room and then they like locked me in there with like nothing but like a TV with like VHSs, and they're like, "Okay, we'll sit in here," and there's like not a clock or anything. So I don't know. I know I was taken at night, but when I left it was like 6 in the morning. And so I don't even know how long I was in that thing. And then I did go to different foster homes, but like also I think it was amazing that like, and not in a good way, that like if they can't find homes for people, that they put a lot of people in like group homes. I've never been in a group home, but they did like put us in like homeless shelters. So they'll put you in a homeless shelter if they can't find you a home, which is like super counterproductive. I don't know. I always went to like foster homes or like kinship homes, which are like friends or like family members or whatever, but I always went with friends. And so I kind of found a forever home, but like I had a really racist social worker who didn't give me a bus pass. And then she went to my school and told the truancy officer that I should get a ticket for not going to school, even though I didn't get a bus pass. And then she was signing off that I was getting a bus pass and I wasn't. Oh, and then like my foster mom, her mom moved in and her mom was like 80 or something. And like a really long time ago, she was being raped. And so she hit this guy on the head with a rock and killed him. But she didn't go to jail, but she like something happened where it went on her record. And so, like, my social worker, the racist one, found that out and was like, "Oh, no, there's no way she could live here, blah, blah, blah. We have to move her immediately," which it wasn't even like that. Like, at first, she was saying all she had to do was expunge her record. And literally the day that her record was expunged is when my social worker moved me out of the house. So then, but that was around like 17. So then I went to like this foster home for a little bit, and it was pretty cool.
Right. So you went from foster home to foster home, and you kind of found your forever home, but then not really, because you were moved out of that when the older woman was moved in.
When my racist social worker, yeah.
Right. Right. And then you got to be 18, and then what happened?
So I think I did like the supervised independent living program where they give you like money to find an apartment or rent a room. And there was like a lot of problems with that because like it was very new. And so like anything that's new is always like very like problematic and like, oh, how do we do this? How are things like funded? How are we gonna make sure like they're in a safe environment? And then I went to like a transitional housing because one of my roommates moved out and didn't tell me, and then like I couldn't afford the rent on my own because I was like so like I had a bank account since I was 13, but it just I didn't have a job. I didn't have any like steady income besides the SILP check, and I couldn't use the whole SILP check. And like I mean I had a job, but like still I have a lot of things to pay. And so I went to transitional housing. And then after that, I turned 21 and I went to another transitional housing. But then there was like some weird girl who was not a foster youth, and she was like addicted to drugs and all this thing. And like she's really like whacked out. And she, I don't know, she didn't like me. So she would call like the police, or she would call the landlord and tell him like, oh, I was playing very loud music, or like I was arguing with people, even though like I wouldn't be there. And I would have like proof that I wasn't there because I love posting on Snapchat. And so like, but they just didn't believe me. And also the manager hated me because like I stood up for myself because we had like poop that came out of the tub and came out of like our sink and our toilet. And
There was sewage in the bathroom coming out of the toilet and the sink and the bathtub.
Yeah, and this was at like 7, 8 in the morning that we found out. And then because we had all just like woken up, and then I called the landlord and she didn't come until 10 o'clock at night. And oh my God, I was so mad. And then I was talking to all the neighbors and they were like, oh yeah, this happened to us last week. This happened to us 2 weeks ago. This happened to us 3 weeks ago. Like, why didn't you guys say anything? Like, you could literally sue this lady. Well, the lady came and like kind of fixed it. And then there's poop everywhere and she told us to clean it up. So then I couldn't do it because I have anxiety and stuff. And then I had to call like these people who deal with that. And they were like, oh no, they gave me the right information. So then they told me to call her back. So I called her and I was like, hey, if you don't clean this up, like I'm gonna have to call the health department. And she told me do what I need to do. So I called the health department and then she had someone in there in 15 minutes. But I was like advocating for us. Like, we're not going to stay here. We need to go to a hotel. I don't care who's paying for it. I don't care. This is disgusting. You have to rip up the floors. We watched poop water sink into the bottom of the floors. The poop water, because they let it sit there for so long, went 6 inches high up in the wall.
Wow.
Like, it was disgusting. Yeah. So she wasn't even trying to fight for me. And this is a transitional housing. This is somewhere that is county government funded, that they're supposed to make sure is safe. And I'm getting kicked out because technically you don't have tenant rights when you live in a transitional housing. All that is kind of gone. And so like all that was like this big commotion. And then I was the bad guy. And then no matter what I said, they still found like a way to kick me out. And then Hathaway Sycamore, the program I was in, didn't even try to help me. I was like, well, why don't you switch me with another girl since her best friend lives here and I could just go live where she lives? Oh, no, we don't want to do that. Like, okay, so you wanted me out anyway. Like, that's not okay. So basically after that, they didn't help me find any resources or any housing or anything. And then they basically left me to be homeless. And then I had to find like my own place. And then...
How did you do that? How did you do that? Did you rely on friends, or did anybody help you, or you know, as I'm listening to you, Alexis, I'm just struck by the fact that you are just super resilient. You bounce back and bounce back. You've heard that about yourself, right?
Yeah. Well, no, I didn't have anyone to like help me or anything. I just kind of like relied on myself, and like I talked to like one of these people from school. I wouldn't call him my friend, but like I met this guy at school in like this weight class, but he was like very severely like mentally ill. But like it was just crazy. But I lived with him for like I think like a year or something. And then as I was living there, I met this guy. But I always reflect back on it because I think it's really funny, like that everything happens for a reason. So I met this guy who like lived in an RV over there, and he lived in front of the Rite Aid. And so
And where was this? Where was this? In
in
Long
the
Beach,
valley,
Fullerton, in the Valley.
the
Okay.
valley. And so
I'm just trying to get a picture of it, right? So it's like a Rite Aid
yeah,
in like a strip mall in the Valley, whatever, right?
right. Because if people know the valley, they know there's a lot of like RV, like I call them RV cities because there are like RVs back to back to back, but
Yeah,
you
that's
can't be
right.
mad at them.
Yeah, they make little communities, right?
But yeah, but you can't be mad at them because if it's $1,500 for a studio, I mean, LA is a rich city, but only to people who are like already rich or have the opportunities.
All right, so he helped you out. He had an RV. You met
Oh
up.
yeah.
You were hanging out with your friend in his place, but then and he was kind of like troubled, and then you found another friend with an RV.
Well, I met this guy and he had an RV and he was showing me his RV and he was like talking to me. And I remember like how I even met him where like got into his RV, but like he used to like cook salmon for me. So that's like our
Hmm.
thing, like in his little RV. And so we would like eat salmon and rice and stuff and drink like this really strong coffee. And then he was telling me like, "Oh yeah, you should live in an RV because it's like easy." And he always tells me like I'm a dog and like I could be wherever I want and like I could go wherever I want and like nothing could tie me down. And I'm like, "Oh, and we were born on the same day." So I think it's so I mean, he's obviously older than me, but I think it's so funny we're both like December 15th people. And so he was just telling me like, "Oh, it'll be easier to like just live in an RV." And I thought about it and I was like, "Okay." And then he was like, "Don't worry. I know like this guy who can like you can park your RV there and hook up to water and power and like work for them." So I did that for a couple of years and then I worked like self-employed for a construction company. So I did their security and in return they paid me really well. And then they also allowed me to park my RV on their property and use their electricity and their water. And like, it was really cool.
Right. What if you're on your own in an RV? Did you ever feel frightened, or did you feel a little bit vulnerable, or were you like, "No, I got this"?
No, I mean, I think most people knew me, like, but it was just weird because, like, guys would come to my RV and, like, these guys would be like, "Hey, can I do like this or that?" And I'd be like, "Oh, why are you coming to my RV, like, talking to me?" Or they'll be like, "Oh, I noticed you were alone and, like, you don't have a boyfriend. Like, why are you at my RV?" So it was more like a nuisance other than, like, scary because people ask me that a lot. Like, you're not afraid to be in an RV, and like my car got broken into before my RV did, and I just feel like, I mean, it's the same thing. Like, the only thing, and it's like, I don't know if people really understand this saying, but the only thing really stopping a burglar is your door or a window. And like, it doesn't matter if it's the window to an RV, it doesn't matter if it's the window to a car, and it doesn't matter if it's the window to your balcony. Like, if they want to go in, they'll go in. Have I been lucky? Kind of. I mean, I've had some break-ins, but I wasn't there, so maybe that's a good or bad thing, but I don't know.
Right. So you're a sex worker, right? So how did you get into that? How did that play out for you?
Well, I think it's because like foster care, they don't give you like what you need. And then like there's like no resources basically for foster youth. Like I was telling my foster mom this. For some reason, like when foster youth apply for like Cal Fresh or food stamps or whatever, they always come up with this thing like, "Oh, well, you need to be working." Okay, so you start working. "Oh, well, then you need to go to school for full time." Okay, so then you do that. "Oh, well, then there's this other thing." Well, that's not fair. And then when they finally give you food stamps or whatever, they say like, Oh, like we're only like for me, they gave me $15. They gave my friend 5 for a month. They gave my other friend 30, and we thought like, wow, you're balling. Like they don't help us
Wow,
because
people can't live
they
on that.
yeah, but I guess they feel like the county is supposed to have our back. I don't know what it is, but I mean, I'm grateful for the Medi-Cal, but like we need like to eat too, and like we need places to live. We need like it's not fair that when there's housing, I was just having this conversation. It's always foster youth and it's never just foster youth. It's like we built housing for foster youth and mothers. Well, then you're going to take the mothers before us, foster youth and families. Well, you're going to take the families before us. Even when the pandemic hit, people told me like, oh, we don't have food at the food bank for single family homes. Do you have children? Like, and I always make this joke or whatever you want to call it. I mean, I have dark humor. So it's like, I always say I have to have, because everybody knows I don't want to have kids. I tell them I have to have like 10 kids to even get assistance. And it's not fair because even when I go on like Section 8 or the Los Angeles Housing Authority or whatever, it says like the 4-bedroom, 5 bedrooms, they're open. They've been open. They're always open. They said they were open since October 2020. And like every month they just keep updating like open since December 2020, January 2021. But when you see the 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms, it's like there's nothing, and that's not fair because it's always foster youth but we always end up somehow falling through the cracks. And so, I mean, in the end, you have to do what you have to do to, I mean, make ends meet or do whatever or find a place to live or whatever.
And that includes the sex work.
Yeah.
Right. So how's that working for you now with COVID? Are you doing phone stuff? Are you doing video stuff? Because isn't it harder to meet people in person, or maybe you are meeting them in person? How's that working out?
No, I have like a heart murmur, so I can't. But no, I've taken a break because I do like a lot of self-employment and then like having to go to school and finish my last semester. It's been like a lot. I think that was like when I was like younger and like fresh starting out. And then like, I think that's something people don't talk about a lot, but like how mentally and like physically draining it is. And it's not like fun. Like maybe in the beginning it's fun, but it turns into like any job, like the respect aspect to it, or like I also have morals. So,
And I remember when I first heard you talk about this, you also see your sex work as empowering. Yeah, it's just a
right.
job now for you, but especially when you first started, it was empowering. It was a way for you to take control of your own body and what you did with it, and also your own livelihood, right?
Right.
And how did that first happen for you? You were like, yeah, I can do this. I like it. Or maybe I don't like it, but I can do it. It's way better than some of the stuff I've done.
I don't know. I think it's just like a cycle. My friend had a friend who was in foster care too, who did it, and she was older than her. And then she went in it, and then she did things with like porn stars and stuff. And then she was like, oh, I didn't want to tell you because I thought you'd be disappointed in me. And I was like, no, I don't think that it's like bad. I think that like, I mean, you're your own boss in a sense. You have to like be able to put people in their place. You have to be very strong-willed. I was like, oh, that's really cool, you know. And she would always like buy me things because she would like have a bunch of money. And then like, I was like, why am I like waiting on my allowance when I could just do this too? So I think around like 18, I kind of started learning about it and like where to go and like how to do things and who to talk to and how to talk to people. And then after that, I don't know, I just kind of did it for like kind of a long time, like till I was like 23-ish. And then I kind of like stopped because I got like really.
How old are you now? Because you look so young.
I'm 25.
You're 25? Yeah, you could be like 20 or. And you describe yourself as a strong Black woman, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that because you, unfortunately, our listeners can't see you, but you're a very lovely woman and also a strong Black woman. It's like a really great combination. And you've also written a lot about that. So why don't you talk to me about some of your advocacy and some of your writing and what's important to you, and also Blue Table Foster Talk, which you're intent on establishing, right?
Yes.
Why the name Blue Table? What does that come from?
So I wanted it like there's Red Table Talk with Jada Smith or whatever.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like a tell all, like where you're supposed to be like truthful or whatever.
Right.
And so I felt like, okay, well, blue is May is Foster Care Awareness Month. And so our color would be like the light blue. And so I was like, okay, so the blue table would represent like, foster care. And then we're just having like a foster talk. So I'm going to do things like all things that you really need to know, like at 16, what do you need to know? What kind of services should you be getting? What kind of services are out there? Being able to have a passport and not having to pay for it yourself. Things about like financial aid, about housing, about I put together a foster youth school packet. So it has all the schools in California and what they offer. So their Guardian Scholars Program, but they're all different. What they provide to foster youth, what are their main services, what does the housing look like? Because I got a lot of misinformation in foster care and like you need to know this depending on what school you're going to, what school offers the best. We think we have like we can go to school for free, which is like technically true. I mean, nothing is free, but they have like a certain amount allocated for foster youth to go to school, and a lot of us waste it in the beginning. And then if we have to go for a master's, we look like crazy at the end because we can't pay for it. And then like we're like, okay, well now we need fellowships or to start a GoFundMe or whatever. And it shouldn't be like that.
This sounds super valuable because even with my limited experience, I see that there's so much, it's so confusing trying to navigate the system, just trying to figure out what is out there that's viable in terms of services or support, never mind what you qualify for or kind of qualify but don't qualify, but kind of, but then not, right?
Right.
All that stuff. And also for kids that have spent time in foster care, usually they don't have the foundation in terms of information to do that navigation, just
Right.
because they haven't been in a stable family that is providing that information. So you start to flail around and hunt around to see what's out there, right? And then there's a lot of misinformation.
That too, but it's like sometimes like I know like social workers would give me things, and even my good social worker, she'd be like, you should really, really read this. And I'd be like, yeah. And then I'd like throw it in the back of my car.
Yeah.
So like having like a YouTube or whatever where people can like stay engaged and like actually look, and then you could come back to it, and then like you can just go like, oh, like Blue Table Foster Talk has something about college experience. Let's look it up. And then you can always look it up. I mean, technology is like a challenge, but after COVID, they see that so many people didn't have technology and
That's
how
right.
important it is. And so I think it's not going to be a problem anymore.
Right. Let me ask you, what has your experiences been with your social workers, your caseworkers? Did you have one only? Did you have many? Was there a lot of turnover? Did you like them?
I had like one in the beginning. I think that was like the ER social worker. They were really cool. I think they extended their time with me or something because they're not supposed to do that. But like this lady was with us for a long time, like almost a year. And then she's the one who came and did the investigation. And then she was our social worker. She like always like brought me stuff like for Christmas events or whatever. And then made sure I went to like Christmas events. So that was cool. And then I had like, I think I had like a guy or something. I think it's like when you switch locations or something, you get like a new social worker if it's
That's
like too far or whatever.
Yeah, that
And
happens.
so I think the last time I got like my super racist social worker, I think like one of mine retired or something. And then she came and she was just so bad. And I literally had her for a long time, like 2 years. It was so bad. I stood in front of her because I told her, like, I'm through with this. Like, you're going to stop lying to me. You need to tell me, like, why won't you give me a bus pass? And then I stood in front of her. I mean, all my foster sisters were there. So they were like, oh my God, Alexis, just let her, like, pass or whatever. And I was like, no, it's not fair that she didn't let me have a bus pass. I mean, it was either I'm going to stand in front of you or, like, I'm going to put my hands on you. And I don't want to do that.
Right. So why was she lying about it, you think? Because it's not like she's keeping it for herself. She can't use it.
I don't really know what she was doing. It's none of my business, but she was signing off on it because I told my lawyer I want to stand in front of the judge and ask, because she told me, the judge told me that I wasn't allowed to have a bus pass. So then I told him I wanted to stand in front of the judge and hear that myself because, I'm a Sagittarius and we got to hear it for ourselves. And the judge is like, "What are you talking about? Like, I never said that." I had to stand in front of her, and then I stood in front of her car. So then when our next monthly visit came, like this new lady came, and then she was like, "Oh, I'm your new social worker." And I was like, "What happened to my old one?" And then I guess my old one said that I keyed her car. So then when DCFS was like, "Oh, can you show us the evidence?" She said that she already got her car painted.
So she just lied regularly? Wow.
Well, welcome to the Palmdale DCFS office.
Let me ask you something about you. What is about you that allows you to fight so well for yourself? Because it sounds like you did it from an early age, and a lot of people can't do that. Did you learn how to do that? Did you just decide this is it? If I don't do it, no one will? What is that about?
Without putting like stereotypes on it, like my foster sister and I were talking, and she was telling me like people don't like Black women because we're going to say how we feel. I don't know how to explain it. Like, I totally agree with her on that. And I feel like I'm also a Sagittarius. So, like, we're very truthful. Like, we're not like liars. And so, knowing my worth and knowing that, like, I have a right to be comfortable in whatever situation I'm in, I just have to keep moving on because there's no point. Because I was like a real crybaby when I entered the system. And then they kind of told me, like, you can't do that if you're going to be in foster care. And so, I mean,
who told you that?
That's what I did.
Who told you that? You remember that there were adults in your life saying you got to get it together.
Well, it was like foster kids and stuff.
I see.
They were telling me, you have to like not cry and stuff. And so I don't know. I just always felt like if I wasn't being treated right, then I'm not gonna stay or I'm not gonna listen. I'm not gonna. No, it's not okay.
Right. So can you tell me about the not-for-profit that you hope to start to help foster kids? I know that you're working on the Blue Table Foster Talk, which I think is a brilliant idea, but you have some long-range plans, don't you?
Yeah, I do want to start a nonprofit. Right now, I'm kind of like on community asset building and kind of like how to do that and like how to build basically generational wealth. Like right now, I'm looking for housing and it's not about me or my money, which is why I can't get housing. Number one, there's too many people here. Number two, there's redlining. Number three, there's people who will just straight out not work with you if they know what you look like. And like, there's no reason that it should be $1,500 for a studio, knowing that all the areas that these $1,500 studios are in low income areas. So like, it's like deeper than me just having money. And then on top of it, you have to make 3 times the rent. If a studio is $1,500, you know what 3 times $1,500 is?
It's a lot of money. Yeah. It's just too much money for a young person, right?
Including a deposit. Yeah.
That's right. You can't sustain that. Let me ask you this then. What is true about you that no one would ever know unless you told them?
One of my goals is to be happy, and I've had that goal for a long time. And I think that that's like another issue with mental health and stuff is like, what's his name? Robin Williams.
Robin
is
Williams.
Like, yeah, a good example because even though you could be like really happy and funny and this and that, like I'm going to be loyal to you, which means I'm going to tell you things that you don't want to hear, which means that that's friendship. It doesn't mean I'm hating on you. It doesn't mean like I'm trying to put you down because 9 times out of 10, I'm going to say more positive than negative things. But sometimes you have to get real. If I really appreciate and love you and I have to be real with you and I expect you to be real with me and not just when you're upset.
Yeah. Are you saying then that people don't realize that you have a depth of sadness? Is that what you're saying?
Not just that, but like, I feel like people think that I'm like so strong and so this and that, that like, I don't know what to call it, but like my one friend, like they don't invite me places. They always want me to go like to their house. Nobody ever comes to the valley to come visit me. And so like, I need people to check in and like, I just need, I guess, more. I guess it's not, I don't know. I feel like I have a right to ask for more.
I understand what you're saying because I think it's sometimes hard to ask for attention or affection or love or just asking for someone to check in with you. especially if people think that you're strong and capable and on top of it, and that and they assume that you would ask for what you need, and it's actually harder to do that than people
Right.
think, right?
Sometimes I think it's funny because I think it's easier sometimes to advocate for others than it is for myself, because it's also like a race thing, and it comes with like always having to quote be the like black ambassador. Everyone's like, oh my God, you're the only black one, so you got to make all of us look good. Or like, that's not fair. That's how it is. It's like, and I tell people that I was just in a
Man, the pressure.
situation. Yes, with room, and people don't realize that I was just in a situation with roommates, and I was like, man, I want to cuss them out so bad. But what I understand is that they're all from anti-black cultures, like Asian culture, Caucasian culture. There's some anti-black stereotypes and all types of things in there. And if this lady's telling me that her mom's a Trump supporter, obviously she doesn't really have that many black friends, and I'm probably the only black person they've met. So let me not go off on them, because then they're gonna automatically assume like, oh dang, all black people are crazy, or want to automatically fight or whatever. So I had to really keep my cool, even though it was hard. And it's like, you are kind of the black ambassador, or you have to remember that there's that crazy black woman stereotype that people always think. And even someone told me that in class, like some people might see Alexis as an angry black stereotype, but some people might also see me as a hero, or as, and I was like, oh my God, I can't believe they're saying this. But like, I mean, I get what they were saying, because I'm not going to back down. I'm not going to stop if I know it's right. Like the social work school has a code of ethic, and DCFS breaks that a lot. Well, I had a issue with DCFS in my internship because I know the code of ethics, and they're trying to go against me. And they're saying things like group homes are where they put bad children and children with severe behavioral problems. But you didn't tell them that that's where you put people when you can't find homes for them, and then leave them there in these jail-like systems. You didn't tell them that, and how many levels there are. And they're like, oh no, they were fighting with me, telling me there weren't levels in group homes. How are you going to tell a foster youth that?
Yeah, that's crazy.
You can't do that.
Yeah.
And then telling me I'm threatening in an email. How can you tell me I'm threatening my tone is threatening in an email? I'm asking you for something. We ended up mutually terminating me because Cal State Long Beach was the only school getting paid for the internship in the bachelor's in social work program. And that's not okay. It's not okay. It's not a Cal State LA, Cal State Long Beach thing. It's, if you're paying one school for the social work program, you need to pay them all for doing the same thing. It's okay because now I have an internship that's paid. So it's just all these things that also go in to being a Black person.
Wow. Okay. So thank you for that, because I know I'm learning a lot, and I know people listening to this are learning a lot as well. You're so clear about your ideas, your thoughts, your beliefs. It's truly admirable. I want to ask you, if you could say something to a youth right now who is having trouble in the foster care system, or any kid in the foster care system, what would you say?
I think a lot of times foster youth put like their abuser first, because we don't understand that we're still kind of being like abused. And so to like give advice to people to put yourself first, because like honestly, we never put ourselves in the situation of foster care in the first place. And I know it's really rough and we want to go back to our parents, but we shouldn't have to endure like any kind of abuse, if it's physical, mental, or whatever, for our abuser, especially my mom. Like I have a big problem with that. Now talking, because I talk to my friends and I tell them, you know, you can't make plans. You can cancel them because you can let me know, but you can't just be like, oh, I'm on my way and then never show up, because that's very triggering for me, because my mom did that a lot. It was really hard to put myself first, but I felt like once I started putting myself first and putting myself in situations that were better for me and not like convenient for my mom, like, oh, this is close to where my mom lives, then I saw like a lot more positivity in my life and a lot more like love come into my life. So I would definitely say to start at least building like soft skills, and then also think about joining places like CYC and NFYI. I mean, I felt like I advocated for myself, but after joining CYC, I just was able to articulate myself more. I was able to clearly express the issues I was facing.
Right. And what is CYC again? What does it stand for so that our listeners
So
know?
California Youth Connections.
That's right.
Or the National Foster Youth Institute, because they really help you and going to advocate for other people and learning how to talk to congressmen and congresswomen and congresspeople. Like, it's just really like empowering, and then also like advocating for yourself, because I was being like beat by foster parents and stuff with like closed fists. And I was saying everything was fine because I was trying to see my mom whenever she felt sober enough to come see us. You should not think about, what I want to see my mom, I want to see this, I want to see that. Yes, everybody's end goal is like placement back into your family reunification or whatever, or finding you a permanent home. But I would just say, like, no matter what situation you're in, always like advocate for yourself. Don't be like narcissistic, but always put yourself first and do the thing that Snoop Dogg did. Like, always make sure like you thank yourself for waking up, thank yourself for rolling out of bed. It's not everybody else's. It's not that you got into a college or the college accepted you. It's that the college that you accepted, the college you applied for, that college, and if you had the mind to get in, then it should be an honor that you picked them and that they didn't pick you, because that's just how it is. Like, you have to carry yourself like you're like the person.
Yeah, I really thank you for that, because the reason why I find your story so particularly compelling is because I know you've learned how to take care of yourself. And I think you set a really good example for people on how to do that, how to think about that, how to have systems in place in order to protect yourself, in order to take care of yourself. So what I ask you now is, what is it like for you now as an adult when you look back on your childhood? How do you feel about it?
I don't know. I feel like in my teenage years or my transition age youth years, there was a lot of I don't know, kind of like negative responses, and I think it's because I didn't handle what happened in my past, or like understanding like benefits of having things like therapy, and then actually like talking through things. And like I don't know. I really set boundaries with my therapist. Like, I don't want to talk about like my story again and again. I want to actually talk about, like, okay, when people do this, I feel this way. Like, how can we identify what that is and how can we change that? And now I have a lot of healthy coping skills and stuff, and like, but
And then, so you've recently had some terrific successes. Can you talk to me a little bit about that? Didn't you get a new job, and you got a new internship, and you got a new this and a new that, right?
yeah, I work as an intern at the She Ready program with Tiffany Haddish. And so I do work for a PR firm called Covert Creative, and they're pretty cool. I learn a lot of like PR stuff, and I really love it. And I'm really grateful that they extended my internship for 2 more months, because I'm excited to learn more about it. We work with the California Department of Social Services, but specifically with wraparound, to make sure that they are using like fidelity and thinking about youth and youth voices when making like important decisions or policies, or changing how people do wraparound. So we're doing a lot of good work with them. And then, yeah, I did just move, so that's cool.
And you
Yeah.
moved too. Wow. Okay. Right. So your situation is a little bit better because your housing situation was tricky last time we spoke.
Yeah.
You're in a good place now, a safe place, a happier place.
Yes.
That's really good to hear. And is there anything else that you want to say?
I don't know. It just doesn't matter where you came from. You can always like achieve whatever you want, basically, as long as you believe in yourself and have like the right support, because not everybody could just do this alone, especially foster youth. But there are new programs and a lot of people who are willing to help. So like, even if you want to be a doctor or a lawyer or whatever, that's possible. I don't care. Anywhere I go, like, I'm going to feel like I belong here, and like I worked hard to get here. And don't let anybody or your own thoughts put you down, because I know we do that a lot as humans and we overthink things. In the end, I mean, they're all just words. You just have to push through it and have healthy coping skills and support systems. And then you can really achieve anything.
This is really valuable, Alexis. Thank you so much. Thank you for spending time with me today.
Thank you.
So Alexis Obinna, a strong, proud Black woman, is building a strong and happy future for herself. And she's fighting for it. She's fighting for herself. She's fighting for what is right. And she's fighting for other people, too. She wants positivity in her life, and she's making positive things happen. So good on you, Alexis. Keep on doing it. If you see something, say something. If you suspect that a child's health or safety is jeopardized in any way by parents or anyone else, contact the Child Protective Services Agency in your county. 24-hour hotlines are staffed by trained social workers who will help you through the process, and you can do so anonymously. In California, you can call the Child Protection Hotline at 800-540-4000. So if you see something, say something. You might be saving a child's life. I want to thank the supremely talented Christina Apostolopoulos for her beautiful music, Eferisto. To hear more of her music, go to Spotify and Instagram at Christina Aposto. That's ChristinaAposto. I know you want to. Her stuff is really great. And thanks to my audio producer extraordinaire, Marcos Campito. I'm glad I found you. Thanks for listening, and if you like what you hear, please rate us and hit subscribe.